meditation for everyone. That was nice. Hopefully nobody got interrupted. Anyway, good morning. My message this morning is called Giving is Getting, and it's not a tithing message. A lot of people automatically assume that if you're talking about giving something, that you're talking about giving money. But that is not what this is about. What are you? So what are you laughing about? My first question is, what do you think you have to give in order to get? Anybody?
Love.
Love, that's a good one. What else? Anybody?
Money.
Money.
It's all circulation,
All right. Well, I think those are all great answers, but what I really would like to share with you this morning is something that I thought was a great truth principle that we need to really think about, and it is this. When we can give in this manner, we can get so much. And what I'm talking about is to forgive in order to forget. That's the give and the getting. And that's kind of hard for some people, but let's look at the three-letter word for. Okay, and in Webster's dictionary it says, for is a preposition which means used as a function word to indicate purpose, to indicate an intended goal, to indicate the object or recipient of a perception, desire, or activity. So it's used to indicate a purpose, an intended goal, or to indicate a higher desire, really. We forgive to purposely give of ourselves. That's where the purpose, on purpose. We forgive to reach our intended goal. We forgive to reach a higher perception of ourselves or to achieve the desire our soul is longing for. You know, a lot of times we have these desires that we think about, or something that is bugging us, something that is our soul is longing for, and we try to figure out what it is, and we usually go out and do things, do activities or whatever. But a lot of times it comes back to I can't think of the right word, not perception, but introspection. That's what I'm trying to say. Anyway, because we have to go within and see for ourselves what it is within ourselves that the soul is longing, what the soul is desiring. And so we can find it very hard to forgive, can't we? And I think we sometimes find it hard to forgive because it could be our ego. Is it our pride? Have we felt so much pain from a situation or a person that we cannot fathom forgiving? You know, I think we get hung up on that. I really do. And all of these possibilities keeps us from really getting deeper within our own self to have that stronger connection with God. It leaves us in this place of not knowing. And our souls want to know. Our souls want to feel. And our souls are longing. So when our souls are in that place of searching for something, having a desire, we have to release whatever is standing in the way in order to open that door to allow that to flood through. We have to let go of the ego and the pride and the pain, and I know sometimes that's not easy to do, but Charles Fillmore wrote this in the Revealing Word about forgiveness. He said, forgiveness is a process of giving up the false for the true. Think about that. Forgiveness is giving up the false for the true, erasing sin and error from the mind and body. Now we know that Fillmore uses sin and error as error thinking or making a mistake. It's not like sin that you have been beaten down with or abused with or anything. And you know, we all know that we can make mistakes, that we miss the mark sometimes. Fillmore likes to say miss the mark. And I always think of a target. If you've ever done archery, you know how easy it is to miss the mark. And sometimes you can whack yourself on the arm or the face or whatever. But we have these mistakes that happen. We miss the mark, and so we don't have to dwell. We don't have to let that be a burden to ourselves. We have to learn to move beyond that. And we have to learn to soften our own defenses, because what happens is when we've made a mistake or something, pride and ego a lot of times will say, oh, it's not my fault. It's not me. And forgiveness, he goes on with, forgiveness really means the giving up of something. We have to give up, but what is it that we give up? We have to give up our mental control, our small m mind control. Because the small m, it's right here, is what locks us into anything negative, to anything that is less than. Our spirit, our soul, will not do that. It doesn't see the error of thinking. It doesn't even know it, because that's our connection to God. God doesn't know bad. God doesn't know the mistake. It's our human self, our small m mind, that's saying, oh, you really messed up this time, honey. You really, have made this major mistake or whatever. And then we start piling on the guilt and shame or whatever. And then at that point, you've built up such a wall that you're going to be on defense, and you're going to have that pride and ego just keep you from moving anywhere forward. And you're stagnant. You're just stuck. You're not in a place where you're ready to give up. But we have to give up. We have to give up those thoughts that are not going to lead us to that higher place that we long for. We have to give up those thoughts that are negative, that are holding us back, that are keeping us trapped. Because our souls want to be free. Our souls want to move forward in the direction that they long for. And we can give ourselves that gift of giving up. It truly is a gift. When you forgive yourself, you cease doing the things that you should not do. And I love that graphic of the chain being broken, and we're out here like this with the chain free, but we're still holding on until we finally really release. And then we move forward. Then we start moving into that idea of forgetting. But this kind of sounds like an easy thing to do, but maybe it sounds like an oxymoron too, because I know we can go to that place of, why do I need to forgive myself when it wasn't my fault? Anybody feel like that? Somebody else has done something to us, and we're not about to forgive them because it's their fault. But who is it hurting? We know who it's hurting. It's hurting ourselves because we're holding on to those thoughts. We're the one beating ourselves up. We're the ones chained to whatever it is, that pain, that hurt, our egos, whatever. We're chained to it, and we're holding ourselves back from moving forward. So it's our choice. We get to choose what we're going to do and whether we're going to move through this or not. And that's when the giving starts really turning into the getting. Because if we give ourselves that gift of forgiveness, we're giving ourselves that gift. Not anybody else out there, not the situation, not the person. Whatever that is not important. But we give ourselves the idea of forgiveness, then forgetting slides right in. Fillmore continues with this. He says, it is through forgiveness that true spiritual healing is accomplished. Forgiveness is a spiritual healing. Forgiveness removes the errors of the mind and bodily harmony. I love that. Bodily harmony. That means you're feeling good. Results in consonance with the divine law. It's that easy. When we cannot forgive, though, we end up trapped. We end up still in bondage. We end up with a physical effect because we're carrying around this weight, this extra idea of not being able to forgive. And so we have to look at that bodily harmony, because if we don't feel like we have this bodily harmony, then we have to ask ourselves a couple questions. We have to, if there is something in our bodies causing us pain or discomfort, we need to ask that spot. Is there something I'm holding on to causing this pain that I need to forgive or release? And you might immediately receive a message when you ask yourself that question. Or it might come to you later. But more than likely, if you're having a pain in your body, and I know that some people might think this is hooey, Jewy, whatever, but it's true. If you have a pain in your body, you need to ask yourself, what is this pain from? It might not have been from the accident that happened. It might not have been from whatever it is that is in your life. It could be something that is way back in the past that you haven't even thought about, but it's still there, chewing away at your body. So ask yourself, why do I have this pain? How can I release this pain? What is it that I need to forgive in myself that is locked into that memory muscle, that muscle memory? Sorry. And then when you do that, you realize that that where you need to be is the idea that God always answers prayer. We know this, right? God always answers prayer. So if we ask God, what is it in my body that is causing this? What is it in me that is making this happen? I'm not saying you're going to get instant results, but I guarantee you're going to have some kind of solution come forth at some point, because God answers every prayer. And sometimes fear, the ego, our pride, whatever it is, can block us from receiving the message. And that's where where prayer and meditation really comes in handy, because we center ourselves in that idea that God is going to answer that prayer. The answer is going to come, I guarantee you. But we always have to remind ourselves that it always begins with God. Everything begins with God. The good comes forth from God. Through the divine law of forgiveness, we cleanse our mind and all is forgiven. And we might say, well, I'll tell you what, I will forgive that person, but I will never forget.
Yeah.
How many times have you said that?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I know. I've lived that life too. And it's hard. It's hard because sometimes even I catch myself thinking, I can't believe that person ever did that. That's still holding on to it. You haven't totally forgiven. You haven't totally forgot about it. I like to think like if something pops up, it's like, oh, that was another lifetime ago, and I don't even remember really the details, or I don't remember that feeling that came with that. But if something pops up and you start churning, and you start getting anxious, or you start feeling like, oh God, then you need to look at it. You have to get beyond that. We can't sit there and say, oh, I'll never forget. We have to move beyond that. Because when we stay in that state of mind, we end up piling up layers of this kind of thinking, which is so harmful to our mental, physical, and spiritual state of being. So, okay, you say, oh, I'm never going to forget. I'll forgive, but I won't forget. Then you got another one. I forgive, but I won't forget. I've got another one. Forgive, forget. Think about the weight that you're putting on your own self. And your small end mind will feel the weight, let alone your body, and let alone your spirit. It's like wrapping yourself in a plastic bag and start tightening it down tighter and tighter and tighter, and you're choking yourself out from living the true life as a spiritual being that you're supposed to live. So we have to release that. We have to think about that unlimited power that's in our thoughts, that small end mind, so easily we can change. I mean, it's a cool thing that God gave us that power to be able to change our thoughts. And yeah, it takes some work. Sometimes we have to say affirmation after affirmation after affirmation to get beyond that. But if you do the work, you're going to find the results. And the results will always be what?
Good.
Good, that's right.
Good.
They will. So when we start changing our thoughts and we start thinking about something different and we start actually forgiving and forgetting, we still might fall back into that whole thing of, really this wasn't my fault. And again, we have to take a breath and we have to go back. We have to, in order to experience God's good, we look at every thought, word, and action and flip our thinking to see and experience the truth. Right ideas are active in every thought. Isn't that a cool thought? Right ideas are active in every thought. So even if you have a negative thought or you have a thought of not forgiving, guess what? In that same thought is that energy of God that can bring forth a positive thought. It's the coolest thing, and it's as easy as going over there and flipping the light switch. All we have to do is flip it in our little mind. And that little mind will allow us to flip it because we are connected to divine mind. And divine mind wants that good to come rushing in. So it's a cool thing if we could just, every time we have that little thought, we have to just tell ourselves, oh, no, I'm not going to do that. In the human aspect, when we say it's somebody else's fault, we might be right. It might really be their fault. But you know what? That's the human aspect and the small end mind thought. Spiritually, we are wrong. Because spiritually, we have to behold the Christ in another. We behold that living essence of God in each other. So it's not anybody else's fault. We are the ones reacting to whatever it is that caused us the pain or the hurt. But we can release that too. Forgiveness begins with forgiving ourselves for even going there in the first place. And it's easy to do. Because we get to create the error thinking, but we can also create the healing thinking. We can erase the error thinking with a simple thought. And we forget that sometimes. You know, for example, the other day, I'm telling on myself, I was driving down the street. And I might have been a little bit in a hurry, but I was coming down Tucker Mill, and this car in front of me was going, I call it granny slow, you know? They're just like about 20, 25 miles an hour. I'm like, oh my gosh, you're in a BMW, for goodness sake, get going. You know? And then my next comment was, if you're going to drive this slow, just stay home with the car and don't drive at all, you know? And I was flinging this out of my mouth. And so we get to the stop sign. She goes straight. I turn right. The minute I turned right, I went, oh my gosh. I just sent this negative energy out to somebody. I mean, I have no idea why she was driving slow. She might have just been, you know, in a moment or something. I mean, whatever. But here I am throwing out this negative energy, flinging it around. So I thought to myself, I thought to myself, okay, I'm not going to do that, you know. So I said to myself, what I said to myself was, I forgive me for going there. I immediately said, oh, I forgive me for going there. And then I sent this lady a bunch of prayers. And I'm telling you what happened in that moment. I mean, I'm driving down the street, and I slowed down, and I was going like 30 miles an hour. And I wasn't like in that rush moment anymore. I was feeling so blessed. I was feeling like I was getting the blessing because I had forgiven myself and opened up this pathway to allow me to send prayers to this person. And then I thought, man, I'm feeling so good. I know I'm connected to God in this moment. And I started praying for everybody I could think of. So all of you guys got prayers after that. But it felt like I was like in that divine moment that I wanted other people to feel that blessing too. And when we have those moments like that, that's what we need to do. We need to send it out into the universe because that's our pure spirit reaching out. And man, I was like feeling so great after that. I mean, it was so powerful. I can't even tell you. But then I found this beautiful quote from Fillmore's book, Dynamics for Living, and I thought, this was kind of like what I was feeling. And it goes, when the spirit of love begins to work in you, a soothing tendency, then a forgiving grace and charity will spring into your consciousness. Isn't that beautiful? I mean, that's what it felt like in that moment. The surest sign of the spiritual mind at work is forgiveness. And notice the capital M mind is forgiveness. So I forgave myself first. And that opened up that idea that, you know, it was all just so pure energies after that. And then he continues with, you will love those who have despitefully used you. You will see unity in spirit and strive to establish it in the world. Whew, we could live from that place all the time. Just think about how much good energy we would be sending out. Just think about how much we would be shifting the energy of the world. And if we had more and more people joining us in that, I believe that the shootings would stop, the war would stop, everything would be different because people would be living from that essence of their true spiritual nature. And isn't that what we desire? Isn't that what we long for? Isn't that what we want?
Yes, absolutely.
So then we have to quit talking to ourselves in a negative way.
Right.
I mean, if you have called yourself dumb, stupid, fat, ugly, unlovable, whatever derogatory thing you can come up with, you know, we need to take time and forgive ourselves for ever doing that.
That's right.
And we need to stop and say, hey, wait a minute, you know, none of that's true. We are a spiritual being. I don't care if you flunked every class in school. You're not dumb. You're not stupid. It's God, the Spirit of God has given us all so many gifts that we can just be elated in that idea of who we are as a spiritual being. We have to forgive ourselves for ever calling ourselves any of these things or even sharing them, whether we spoke them or whether we just think them. Change that thinking and soak in all the good that we are. Again, from Dynamics for Living, Fillmore wrote this, forgiving all. I love that. I think it's cool that there's a definition for forgiving all. Our forgiving all men or people includes ourselves. You must also forgive yourself. Let the finger of denial erase every sin or falling short that you have charged up against yourself. Now we know that denial is not saying that it didn't happen. It's taking and not giving it any power, any negative power, or empowering whatever it was that happened, those thoughts, that action, that pain, whatever it was. We don't keep feeding that. We let it erase, go from our minds. We don't look at it. And what happens then, what happens next is we pay your debt by saying to that part of yourself which you think has fallen short, see, you are well, sin or error thought, no more, that nothing worse befall you. Then loose them and let them go. He's saying, forget about it. Forgive and forget is really what he's saying. But I love this because whatever part of your body is hurting, say to yourself, see, you are well. Error thought, no more, and that nothing worse befall you. Then loose them and let them go. All you have to do is, whatever that pain is, say, no more. I'm not giving you that energy anymore. The pain is not going to be there. I'm letting go. I'm forgiving myself for ever feeding into that, whatever that is causing that. And then you're going to say to yourself, you are well. You are a perfect child of God. You are healthy. You are whole. I want to experience this life the best I have in this moment. And then you say, I forgive. I forget. I don't want to remember any of that garbage. I want to move beyond that. And the thing is that one that I love about unity is that all of this is practical Christianity. We get to practice it each and every day. And sometimes we have to practice the same thing over and over again. But the good news is that even when we practice it every day, we grow and we get better and better at it. I mean, I don't know about you, but since I've been in unity, I know I've grown by leaps and bounds from where I was before I started. And every day I feel like I have these new awarenesses, these new perspectives on who I am as a spiritual being. And if we find ourselves falling short, we just jump on it immediately, like I did in the car. Turned the corner and went, wait a minute, what are you sending that energy out for? Stop. And that's all we have to do. We correct that error thinking in our mind, and through that dynamic law of forgiveness, that spiritual law of forgiveness, we erase any damage that we could cause ourselves from not forgiving. And by using the power of forgiveness, we can easily know giving is getting. Thank you for being here today. God bless you. Was that good?
That was beautiful.
Thank you.
That was really deep.
Thank you. All right, so the song I got is a guy that sings for